So I'll be brief, but Maggie sent me a text in the beginning of March 2020 and said, I found this great online meeting and here's a link to it. And it's 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. And I thought, ooh, that's kind of early. And then I thought, well, let's see, she's in Colorado, so it's 5:30 a.m. Eastern time for her. So I guess I should check this meeting out. So the next day I got on the meeting and our friend Darell was chairing. And I found out a couple things about Darell that day. First of all, he's in California, so it was 4:30 a.m. for him. And definitely made me think that I should stop complaining about a 7:30 meeting. And he gave the 10-minute lead that morning. And as I listened to him, I just heard line after line after line of our big book just coming alive and coming out of Darell's mouth just so naturally. And it was a great meeting. And Darell and I have become friends since then. And we probably, well, we've been on that meeting pretty much every day for almost 3 years. So probably closing in on 1,000 meetings together. And we were probably talking about 6 months ago, and he asked about sponsorship because he said, we have a lot of similarities. I can just hear it. And then a couple months ago, he mentioned when he was sharing that he was sponsored by a guy who was sponsored by a guy who was sponsored by a guy named Don P. in Colorado. I said, aha, there's the connection. So I'd like to, it's really a pleasure tonight for me to introduce my sober brother, Darell J. from Southern California.
All right, well, good evening. Thank you, John, for that wonderful, glorious introduction. My name is Darell, and I am an alcoholic. I am glad to be here, and I am glad to be sober. If you're new to the room of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'd like to say welcome. And so I can only tell you, you know, I don't really know what it is you need to do. Because if booze hasn't convinced you what you need to do, there's nothing that I can say. I can't scare you. I can't, there's nothing I can do to motivate you to do what it is that I do. And so as David was reading that, I thought about how, okay, by the time I get to the chapter called We, not those, not them, we agnostics, the big book has dumped on me some terrible, terrible news. They've spent from the doctor's opinion to page 23 with helping me to look at, to diagnose myself, to look at, to see, do I have this? Oh, wait a minute, hold on a minute. Let me start my timer because I get wound up. Do I have this allergy? Do I have this phenomenon of craving? And so they give me a lot of information between the doctor's opinion and page 23 so I can look at. And so what we did was that I had a sponsor and they gave me a prayer. And the prayer asked me to ask God to lay aside, or some say set aside, everything that I think I know about the disease, the program, the steps, myself, and especially what I thought I knew about God, for an open mind and a new experience with the disease, the program that steps myself and especially with God. Amen. And so they began to change my perspective on what it was that I needed to do. Because before sponsorship and coming to AA, I had always looked at alcoholism in terms of circumstances and situations. I vomited, I spent too much money, I got drunk at some event I wasn't supposed to get drunk at and fell down and embarrassed the whole family. And so I had always looked at alcoholism in terms of results. And nobody had ever said, well, listen, before we look at results, let's get down and look for causes and conditions, right? Let's look for some causes and conditions, because and here's why that makes, see, everything here, when I come here and I'm ready, everything that happens here happens for a reason, and it makes sense because I understood what could happen with a misdiagnosis. Because here's what happened. I was in the United States Air Force and I was sick. And so I was a fireman and I couldn't go to duty. And so I went on sick call. I went to sick call and I had chills and fever and whatever I had, the symptoms that I had, they were symptoms that were flu-like symptoms. And so the Air Force doctor saw me, she diagnosed me as having the flu, and they sent me away. But now, after a while, I still ain't getting no better. And I go back to sick call a couple of times. And then the last time I go to sick call, here's what happened. I get a different doctor, and this different doctor looks at my eyes, and this doctor notices that my eyes were yellow. Well, if you know anything about jaundice, yellow eyes are a symptom of jaundice. And so once the doctor diagnosed me as having jaundice, they prescribed a course of action for jaundice. And when I followed that course of action, I got over it. And so by the time I got here, I understood how important it was to have an accurate diagnosis. I understood that you people told me that it wasn't so much about the results of my alcoholism, but let's get down to causes and conditions. And so what they did was, now listen, with my sponsor, here's what they did. They showed me, well, listen, this is what we're gonna do, Darell. Instead of looking out here, we're gonna turn within. And we're gonna take a flashlight and we're gonna look deep down inside of you, and we're gonna find this elusive thing called alcoholism. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna look for it in three different ways. First, we're gonna look for this allergy, right? Let's look in here, let's look at this allergy. And so they give me a bunch of questions and a bunch of scenarios, and when I take a drink, did getting another drink become, he says, paramount? That means it becomes important as hell. did it become paramount to all other interests, so that whatever the important appointment that I had, I couldn't meet it. And it helped me understand how I left my mom out shopping. I was supposed to drop her off and pick her up, and I left her out because I was drinking. And once I take a drink, I can't stop, and I can't talk myself into stopping. And so I got this flashlight, and I'm looking inside of me, and I said, damn, that old allergy, he hiding over there. He hide because, see, listen, I got a disease that is so cunning, baffling, and powerful that all it has to do is trick me into looking out here. That's all. Just trick me into looking outside of me for it. And I'll never find it looking outside. And so I go through the doctor's opinion, and I get to page 23. And I'm old, so I can remember the gist of what it says, but I'm going to read it out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. He says that page 22. We know that while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do for months or years, he reacts much like other men. And then my sponsor had me turn this into a question, and that is, am I equally positive that once I take any alcohol, whatever, into my system, something happens, both in the bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for me to stop? Does my experience abundantly confirm this? And so between the doctor's opinion and page 23, because here's what they used to tell you. They used to tell you, well, listen, let's go through the book. And if the book don't apply to you, we're going to go back through it again. And if it still don't apply, throw the damn thing away because it's no good to you. Either that'll happen or you'll get to page 23 and you'll be like me and you'll be amazed, man. Because for the first time, someone showed me and helped me to see what happened when I drink. Listen, we ain't people that just get drunk. He talks about it. He says most of the time we are drunk out of our mind. If you listen, there's a movie about Bill Wilson. That's what's that guy's name? You know what I'm talking about. And in that movie, there's a scene where he's outside, he's walking down the street at night, and it's a street light, and the light is focused on him, and he can't take 2 steps in the same damn direction, man. That I get drunk like that. I'm not just some guy that I get a little tipsy, man. I get drunk out of my mind, and I can't understand why I got so drunk. So I identified this allergy. And then he says, well, these observations would be academic and pointless if I never took the first drink, setting this terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, my main problem, and we say it may center in my mind rather than my body, because what he wanted me to do was he wanted me to look at it, not having made up my mind already that it was true, but let's go from 23 to 43 to look at it and see if it's true. And to the point where when I get to page 43, he says, now, the alcoholic at certain times, has no effective mental defense against the first drink, except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. His defense must come from a higher power. That means that everybody ain't like that. You got some people that just information about their condition was enough. But see, what I was able to see and what my sponsor was able to see help me to see was that I had spent 23 pages. I spent the doctor's opinion up to 23, looking at the allergy of the body. And the question was, now between 23 and 43, did my mind still try to hint, intimate, or tell me that maybe I could take one, right? Because what he was able to show me was that my mind has a mind of its own. And this other mind, if I'm an alcoholic, this other mind it is so destructive. It is out to kill me. And so in spite of all that I had seen, my mind was still telling me that maybe I could take one. So now I got the allergy in the body and I got the obsession of the mind. And let me refresh your memory what I'm talking, because I'm talking about by the time I get to the chapter called We Agnostic, man, they done dumped some stuff on me. So they done dumped this thing on me about this allergy. They done show me if I drink again, I'm probably gonna die. And then I come up out of 23 thinking, well, maybe I can just drink no matter what. And then I get to page 43 and they shoot the hell out of that damn idea that I'm gonna be able to just not drink no matter what. That one day I'm gonna drink, no matter what, I'm gonna drink. And then they lay on me the last piece of evidence, and that is that even without drinking, I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. Page 44, 45, and 52. They talk about the bedevilments. And so now they've laid on me, not just, listen, these are not suppositions. These are facts about people like me. If you got this, if he said that when I take that allergy, coupled with that obsession of, he said, if when you honestly want to, you find you can't quit entirely, or if when drinking, you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably an alcoholic. And if that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness. Damn, which only, oh God, only, listen, now I'm really in a dilemma, because you done told me now, you done presented evidence to me that the one thing that I hoped I wouldn't have to do, man, the one thing that listen, they done put me in a position where the one thing that I hoped wasn't gonna be the answer turns out to be the damn answer. The one thing that I got the most problem with is this idea of God. Man. And so he spends all of We Agnostics softening the blow. Because I got ideas about God. I say, man, listen, I never liked him. he says we had prejudices. I got ideas about him from when I was growing up. He wouldn't do this. You know, we little kids, we get down on our knees. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And so, you know, they teach us to pray. And then we get this idea that, well, okay, my dad is sick. You done told me to pray. Well, if I pray and ask God to heal my daddy, he ought to do it. You done told me to pray, and now my granny's sick with diabetes, and she loses her leg, and you done told me to pray, and I'm praying, and my granny dies. Oh my God. You done told me to pray, and my grandpa, I have to watch my grandpa miss my grandma so much, and all he did is walk around the house and call her name. And I think I think the sadness killed him. So you tell me to pray, and I pray for these things, and none of this stuff happens. And I get here, and you tell me that the one thing that I don't want to be the answer is the only answer I got. Damn. So now, how do you soften it up? How do you soften it up? And so he uses the chapter called We Agnostics to soften it up, right? Because now he offers me an opportunity in the beginning of the chapter called We Agnostics. He gives me an opportunity to identify, almost like a list of the problems that I got with this thing called God. He destroys this idea that I got because I had an idea, well, maybe I just need to live right. Now that I'm sober, maybe I just need to live right. I just need to be a good son and a good husband and a good child. And he says, if a mere code of morals, a better philosophy of life was sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. But we found that such codes and philosophies did not save us no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral, we could wish to be philosophically confident. In fact, we could will these things with all our might, but the needed power wasn't there. Our human resources, as marshaled by the will, were insufficient. They failed utterly. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. Now, he says, we had to. Listen, there's no option in had to. We had to find a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where? So where and how are you going to find him? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. And so in order to soften the blow of this terrible dilemma I'm in, he had to offer me some simple things. Listen, he had to offer me a hoop big as 10 times bigger than me to jump through. And so he offers me a hoop of, well, do I now believe, or, here we go. here's this hoop, or am I even willing to believe that there's a power greater than myself? And so I can say, I can say that all I've ever been able to do, even up to this day, is, because I still got a lot of problem with this idea of God, man. I'm willing to believe that he exists. That's all. Do I not believe, or am I even willing to believe that there's a power greater than myself? And he says that as soon as I can say that, I'm going down the road. And then he offers me something that I was familiar with, in that he offered me the opportunity to define this new relationship with God, right? We're going to define it. And he gives me two choices. That either God was going to be everything, or he was going to be no thing. Everything or no thing. That's it. And so now what I find that most people in the program, a lot of people in the program, they create a delusion of a third option. And that's how we get into trouble. So I said, because listen, I had lived since my father died. I had lived since my father died to this point with living my life was like God was nothing. And the results were that I wound up, I ain't trying to put no religion on nobody, but I'm telling you my story. I wound up just like that boy. They called him the prodigal son. I wound up just like him. I was down literally in a hog pen, because I wound up in a place called MacArthur Park and Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles. That's where self-will took me. And I wound up down there. And so I had practice with living like God was nothing. And they said, was I willing to believe that God would be everything? And it's like this. The reason that some of us have issues with, let's say, the ninth step, is because when we were given an opportunity to choose our own conception of God back in step 2, we probably went too far, or we didn't really take our time to ask ourselves what it meant. And so in order for me to help me understand what they were talking about, the scenario that my sponsor put to me was, okay, who asked me, well, who did I think was a very beautiful woman? And I said, Halle Berry. Because boy, listen, she's old and she's still beautiful. So asking me who was a real beautiful woman and who was a woman that I thought wasn't so beautiful, and being able to draw an analogy, to draw a picture of me between, if I had a chance to meet Halle Berry, and if I had a chance to meet this unattractive woman, which would I be looking forward to meet the most of all? And that is, I'd be looking forward to meeting Halle, man. And so they talk about faith, because faith just simply means that I'm going to step out on my decision that God is going to be everything, and I'm gonna take the rest of the steps because I'm convinced because I'm convinced that when I get to the end, I'm gonna have an experience with God where God is listen, I grew up thinking he was a punishing God, but through my sponsor who asked me, well, okay, now let's just say for the sake of argument, he is punishing. Well, Darell, tell me one time he punished you. And I couldn't tell one time. I could tell sometimes that God didn't do what I thought he should do. But then, see, that's why going through these steps, being sober and in prayer, we can remember things. Because when we're talking about God punishing me, what I saw was I was taken back to a time, and this is what happened. I was a young man. I was like maybe 13, 14 years old. And I was something else. And so I had a friend who he had a nice backyard and he had a basketball court in his backyard. And so he got this nice basketball court. So all of the boys, that's what we hung out at in his backyard. And so this one particular day, I decided that I wanted to play basketball, but the boy wasn't home. So him not being home don't stop me from wanting to play basketball and trespassing in his yard playing basketball. And so his father comes outside, and his father's kind of an old man. And his father comes outside with a gun. Now, you would think that a gun would have frightened me, but I began to curse at that man and called him everything but a child of God. And he pointed that gun at me, and he was so mad he was shaking. And so what I saw was that instead of God punishing me, there were several times in my life that God had actually spared my life. And so when we talk about this thing called the great reality, right? And so now I'm just kind of giving, my opinions about some stuff, because I believe that the reason that Bill used the word God, for one reason, I believe it, because I believe that there's I know everybody in the United States that heard of it. Everybody done heard of God. Everybody, matter of fact, probably everybody around the world done heard of him. Don't matter what you think about him, but everybody done heard of him. So they use a term that we all done heard, and we all got ideas about. Our meeting, and if you've never been to our morning meeting, man, come on with us sometime, man. Listen. We was having a discussion about this very thing one day, and Maggie O said all he says the word God. He ain't even talking about God. He just said the word God brings up something in folks. So so when we hear this word God, man, some of us lose our minds. But after having looked at the disease in the body, the disease in the mind, and the spiritual malady, I became willing to lay aside my prejudices my old ideas because I saw that if something didn't happen, alcohol was going to come back into my life, and alcohol was going to kill me. And so in order, it's like, Bill was a great salesman, and a salesman is pretty much like a great fisherman. And that is that in order to cast a wider and wider net, he used several different terms to ease away from the word God. He talked about higher power, or God as you understand him, great reality. We all know exactly what he's talking about, but in order to cast a wider and wider net, he began to use these other terms that hopefully, if you have a problem with the word God, hopefully the great reality, hopefully that phrase will draw you into the net. Because that's all we're trying to do. That's all he's trying to draw you into the net. Because listen, what he knows is, he knows that if you, if I, if we can lay aside whatever we think we know about God, whatever we think we know about God, and start all the way over with him, brand new, from point zero, by the time we get through this thing, I don't say it, he says it. By the time you get to the end, you gonna be what? Amazed, man. You're gonna be amazed. See, listen, we are people that we thought that what we believed or didn't believe about God was a hindrance. Listen, if God was like me and you, if he was like us, and if you don't believe in him the way he said you're supposed to believe in him, then it's gonna be a problem. He ain't like that, man. Listen, he don't care what you believe or what you don't believe, because he ain't a God of words. He's a God of action. And so no matter what you believe or don't believe, if you write an inventory, if you look at resentment, fear, self-centered sexual behavior, if you read that to somebody else, if you begin to want him to change you, if you get down on your knees and you ask him to change you, and you get up and make a list of all of the people that you done harmed and go out and make restitution to them, no matter what you believe or don't believe about God, you're gonna get the exact same results that we got who believe. The results will be the same. Listen, what I believe or what I don't, listen, it would be cruel of God to put me in a position where my doubts would separate me from his love. That's a cruel God. My doubts won't separate me from him. Listen, we all got kids. Well, most of us probably got children. It don't matter. It don't matter what my kids think of me as a father and a man. It don't matter. What matters is, listen, today, where was I at? Oh, okay, I take my wife to the beauty shop. Day Thursday. Take my wife to the beauty shop every Thursday. So I wound up, I'm sitting in IHOP. I'm sitting in IHOP having me some breakfast. And phone rings, and it's my oldest son. My oldest son had at first he dropped out of high school. And I didn't say anything to him about it. It's his life. And then later on, he decided he wanted to go back. So he went back to high school. Then he went to college. Then he went to graduate school. And so now my son is an English professor at the University of Memphis. He's an English professor, and his wife just wrote a book, something about Black Panther or something. And so they are doing good in the literary world, but anybody that know anything about the literary world, you know in the beginning, it don't really make no whole lot of money. And so I'm sitting there, my son calls me, and he says, listen, Dad, he says, I'm down in New Orleans, and I'm trying to check into this hotel. And I thought that I had enough money, but I don't have enough money. So how much money do you need, son? He said, I need $500 some. Okay, no problem, I'll send it to you. And so what I'm saying is that at that point, I didn't ask my son how much you love me. I didn't ask him what do you think of me. My son had a need, and I met his need. Well, that's the same way God is. God, listen, God ain't sitting around tripping about what you think of him or don't think of him. He's not tripping about that because he knows that you are his child and he loves you, and you got a disease called alcoholism, and a part of alcoholism is stubbornness. So why would a God punish you for being stubborn when he's the one who made you? He does not separate himself from me based on what I believe or what I don't believe about him. And that's why I love it. I love it. So I've traveled this way for a little while, and it's amazing to me because, listen, I've been sober for 34 years, and people seem to be flabbergasted. But now understand this, I done read this same book for 34 years every single day. Well, yes, I've got some small mastery of it. Yes. But that don't mean that God loves me any more than you. He just uses me to talk about his book, to talk about him. But he loves you just as much as he loves me. So I encourage you, man, that this is a program, man. This is a program that if you will, they say, he does not make too hard terms for those who seek him. So he's not going to ask you to jump through no hoop or walk down the street naked or whatever. What he's going to ask you to do is he's going to ask you, listen, will you do something to save your own damn life? Will you do something to save your own damn life? Will you do something so I can give you, because he says, a new life has been given us. Or, if I prefer, a design for living that really, really works. And what that means is that he gives me a design for living because he's already talked about it in the way that I live. He says, the hopelessness and futility of life as I had been living it. That means that every time I got sober, I always got drunk. That from a sober state of mind, all roads led back to the whiskey stove when I had my own design for living. Now that I've adopted this new design for living, the whiskey store doesn't listen. Active alcoholism does not exist in the spiritual realm. It don't exist. That's where God lives. You think God got whiskey stores in the spiritual realm? Come on now. Active alcoholism does not exist in the spiritual realm. So maybe that's why I just need to live. If I live there, then there's no, listen, if the whiskey store don't exist, there is no road to it. None. There are some roads that lead to happiness. There's a road called happiness. Oh man. That means that no matter what's going on in our lives, we can sit down and we can find God in it, even the tragedies. And we can find happiness. We can find usefulness. We can find, peace of mind. And whenever the book talks about peace of mind, they're usually talking about peace of mind in spite of a storm. Peace. Other than that, it ain't peace of mind. It's just boredom. Ain't nothing going on. It's peace of mind. It's peace of mind when in the midst of the storm, I'm okay. I'm able to say, God, this too shall pass. And I don't lose my mind by going out taking some kind of crazy action because I said, oh Lord, I gotta have some peace. I gotta have some peace. I gotta do something. So I'm gonna take it into my own hands. I can't wait for you, God, and I go out. And so I'm gonna say this and be through. Because I came to the conclusion that most of my life, God had spent my whole life straightening up the messes that I made, right? I decided, God, I wonder what'll happen if instead of asking you to keep straightening out these messes, if I stop making these messes and I just ask you to take care of me and to bless me. And my life hasn't been the same. So thank you, Maggio, for asking me to come out. Thank you for all of your attention. Thank you, Chris, and the people, David, and the people from my early morning meeting, Augie, who came out to, I won't even say support me. I think came out just to listen to this message. Because listen, they wrote this book in 1939, and it ain't really nothing changed in this book, but we keep talking about it because this book is alive, man. This is a living document. And we keep talking about it because we keep going into it. We keep pulling new stuff out of it. We keep sharing this new stuff because as we share this new stuff, this book continues to live. It lives in the hearts of each and every one of us. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for letting me share. Love you.
Thank you, Darell. Oh, that was wonderful. What we do in this meeting, if you don't mind, is if you want to pick on maybe 2 or 3 people so they can share their experience or whatever, and then I can take over from there. If you'd like to share, or if you have a question for Darell, you can use the raise your hand function, and we'll get to you after you pick on a few people, Darell.
Okay, well, how about David T?
Hey everybody, my name is David. I'm an alcoholic. Darell, thank you. And I enjoyed hearing you talk. Sometimes in a meeting you hear something you haven't heard before in a meeting, and I think I heard a couple of things that I had never heard before in a meeting, and that's always fun. And I never heard somebody explain my inability to not drink by saying my mind has a mind of its own. And that makes a whole lot of sense when you say it that way. And I do really enjoy the big book and being able to talk about what it looks like when I do it. And that's how it's alive for me, and how I can come and have something to share in a meeting, even though so many things have been shared. And a lot of times have felt like I didn't have anything original. But what I do have that I can share is what this program and these steps look like when I do them. And it really is something to be able to contribute that. And every once in a while, it looks like something gets through to somebody else. And that's a really awesome place to be sitting. And it helps me to know how I'm in the right place doing the right things with the right people. And that's what it seems like today. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, John O.
Thank you, Darrell. I'm John. I'm alcoholic. And I was excited to hear you share tonight, Darrell, and my excitement was well deserved. You said so much, but one thing you said towards the end there that really caught my attention. It reminded me of something my sponsor, Mike L. A lot of people know Mike L. here. He was sharing in a meeting, and he was speaking in a meeting in Indianapolis one night. I heard him, and he said, God loves me just as much when I'm in a liquor store writing a bad check to seduce my best friend's wife as he does when I'm helping an old lady cross the street. And I had to really let that one sink in, right? But like you said, it's, you know, that power is there. It's there if we want to connect to it, and it can help us to live a completely different life. And this program has worked for me in spite of me, because I had a huge problem with the higher power, and I had a huge problem with discipline, and you name it, I had a problem with it. But it's worked despite my bad attitude. So really grateful to be sober today, and thanks for sharing with us tonight, Darrell.
All right, thanks, John.
Do you want to call on one more person, Darrell, and then I can take over?
Okay, how about Chris R?
Oop, you're muted, Chris.
There we go. How's that? Can you hear me now? Awesome. Okay. I'm Chris from Alcoholic in Jersey. Darrell, thanks so much. Really awesome stuff as always. You know, you started off talking about the lay aside prayer, and you know, where I was in my life and in my recovery from when I first got sober to the time going out and not coming to meetings for a long time, but yet not drinking, and my entire life just being in shambles. And then coming back into the rooms and eventually, you know, meeting the people in the 7:30 meeting and you, and then, you know, you sharing that prayer with me. That's something I hadn't experienced before or learned about before. But what it did is it reset the table for me, and it gave me a new pair of glasses, so to speak, right? And helped to open up an entire new experience for my recovery, which is still growing and expanding. And as John just said, you know, it works in spite of me sometimes, despite my own best efforts to get into my own way. inadvertently and otherwise. And to watch the actual results of the program, the steps in my life, as I've been taught by you and other people in the rooms, and through my own experience, it's just been amazing. So I'm eternally grateful to you and to the program for saving my life, literally and figuratively. And I can't wait to see what the next stages, next steps bring. So I'll pass with that. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris. So if anyone wants to share, go ahead and you can raise your hand with the raise your hand function. And in the meantime, I'd like to call on Tom Newell. You want to share tonight, Tom?
Thank you, Maggie. I think I've had a rough time with this meeting tonight. I've had sponsees calling all during it, and but I loved what I heard Darell share, and I don't have that much to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. How about Kathy Perez? Would you like to share, Kathy?
Sure. Hi, good evening, friends. Kathy, alcoholic here in snowy Denver. It's nice. Darell, thank you so much. Gosh, I just needed exactly that. Not only did I need the message that you shared, but I needed the enthusiasm. It's been a rough couple of weeks. Actually, it's been a rough year. And one of the things that I know, and when I hear somebody solidly grounded in recovery, is what is it? It's always been a coming home feeling. It's always been, yes, these are my people. This is where I belong. Yes, you're saying what I need to hear. You've had a similar experience, and that there's nothing that my life has, happened in my life that is beyond God. I remember some years ago when I had a bad car accident, and the phrase that I guess it still floats around, God never gives you more than you can handle, until I got more than I could handle. Then I realized actually it's the sentence is wrong. God never gives you more than God can handle. Well, that's the sentence, so screw the other sentence. The other sentence actually doesn't make any sense. I can't handle shit. So what I can handle is I can mostly dress myself. I like to cook, so I can cook. I know how to drive to work, so there certainly are some things that I absolutely can handle. Absolutely. And then there are some things about life that, in fact, I can't. Like so many of us, I love this about us. So many of us, that's like basic stuff. I didn't get the manual. I didn't get the class. I didn't get the message. It's like, I was just flummoxed about so many aspects of life, like simple things like bank accounts, balancing a checkbook, which I don't even bother, honestly, anymore, because I never did balance one. I just make sure I have enough when I kind of do the stuff I have to do. And so some of those little things that I love that, and you can't balance your checkbook and somebody, puts you in a position of treasure. I love that. So what I know about the great reality deep down inside every man, woman, and child, and it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. It goes into the unseen world. It goes into the water that I drink. It goes into the trees that blow in the wind. It goes to the snow that's falling from the sky. And so it is in everything. It's never not there. There's never not a place where God is not. Is that a sentence? And so one of the things that I'm doing right now, I have had a lot of support and help with the circumstances of my life, and I'm grateful for that. And I just needed to hear what you had to say, Darell. So thank you. And I think I showed up to that 5:30 Colorado time meeting when it first started. Maggie encouraged me to, and I just got to say, yay for you that are all getting up early. I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you for calling on me, Maggie. Love you all.
Thanks, Kathy. Love you. How about Julie from Iowa? Would you like to share, Julie?
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for calling on me. Thank you so much, Darell. That was incredible. And I agree that there's just so much in there that was absolutely what I needed to hear. And I'm at the end of a day, so I am kind of in a spot where I'd like to listen and not share, but thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Julie. It's good to see you. How about Augie? Augie, would you like to share with us tonight?
Hey, I'm Augie. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks, Darell. That was amazing. Really amazing as always. You really are an inspiration for me. It's been since you've inspired me since day one on my journey here. I'm getting up to about a year, closing in on a year. And what you started out with was one of the clinches for me early on. I had the question of, am I an alcoholic? Am I not an alcoholic? Because I always compared myself to someone always worse off than I thought I was. And you mentioned the doctor's opinion and the craving. And when I think about that, that was like probably one of the first meetings you mentioned in here, but I probably heard that early on in some of my first meetings. And I'm like, man, that is so me. And I've had that. And I didn't know, I thought everybody had that. Like, you drink and then you want to drink more and not stop, just keep going. And I didn't know. I thought that was the norm. At least that was the norm for the people I tended to gravitate to, so I just kind of thought everybody was there. But yeah, so that kind of convinced me that I'm where I'm supposed to be. I've just been open-minded since the beginning. I got a sponsor day one, and I kind of did what you basically said today is just, work the program and it'll work. Don't do it, work the program way, not the Augie way, and it will work. It's worked for all of you guys. It's working for all of you right now. And it'll continue to work as long as, you work it the way it's written in the book. And that's what I try to do on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, so I'm very grateful. And like I said earlier, inspired by you, Darell, and by pretty much all of you guys. So thank you for letting me share.
Thanks so much, Augie. Hey, Sam, would you like to share tonight? We're ready to wrap it up before our business meeting.
I'm Sam, I'm an alcoholic. And wow, Darell, thank you for a beautiful share tonight. I think that's really comforting for me to know and to really make real that it really doesn't make a shit what I think about God, whether or not God's real or not, if God is real, right? And if I live my life as if that power is the great reality. Kind of the interesting experiment that always happens is I've been sober almost 23 years. And my mind, man, and I've had all kind of amazing miracles happen, just stuff. I mean, I could tell you a story that would, just make you just cry, right? Like, and be like, God, man, that's it. He's right there. God's hands were all over that. There's no possible way. And then the next morning be scared shitless over something dumb and be a complete agnostic, like, and just go, I have a mind that just, the big book talks, it says we agnostically inclined. I'm an agnostically inclined guy. I drift into agnosticism, and I also drift into unhealthy stuff. Like, I don't really drift into constructive shit, if you know what I mean. We agnostics is something that I can just keep putting myself through it. Every time I read that with somebody new, or every time I read it for myself, but I have the blessing of being able to work with enough guys. I read through that quite a bit. And every time I read it and ask myself those questions, I just, it just cracks me all open again. Am I willing today to lay aside prejudice, even against organized religion? Right. And you know what? I'm a kind of guy who can be devoutly religious and anti-religious all at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have certain beliefs and pious beliefs, but if somebody else says something weird and religious to me, I'm automatically, there's a siren that goes off in my head and goes, this guy's a quack. I'm not listening. Oh, one of them, you know, like that's the kind of brain I have. So the best news I think that AA gave me, and I had a lot of OCD around that when I came in here, you know, the best news my sponsor gave me with that is he said, you don't have, I said, I'm going to screw it up. What if I screw it up? I'm going to screw this whole thing up. What if God's not really? Because all you have to do is act as if God's real. You don't have the power to screw it up. What about that? God is everything or else God is nothing. And that's why I love this title, The Great Reality, because, you know, I have the, one of the unique gifts that I think that I have today is the awareness that it doesn't really matter what my opinion is about something. All I have to do is take the action, right? That's, you know, I can be terrified and take the action. A lot of people say faith and fear can't live in the same place. That's bullshit. I've been terrified and walked in faith because, you know, I mean, it's like, I don't have to, I think a lot of times we think that, you know, what was it, Blaise Pascal that said that God created man in his own image, and unfortunately man returned the favor. And I think that, you know, for me, it's important to know that I just don't care that much about what my imagination makes up about stuff anymore. It's just imagination, you know, and if something is a supreme reality, I just watch it unfold and like to watch it unfold. When I start getting, you know, I don't believe in a God that I created. I believe in a God that created me. And that no matter how inadequate my conception of that power is, in this moment, God works with that. I've seen God work with guys who are as obstinate, including myself, as you can get. And I've seen God work miracles in people's lives that are just filled with hatred towards that word and towards religion and all that stuff. And I've seen God's love pierce through that. And all we have to do is just set aside everything we think we know. So that's a great, thank you for a great meeting.
Thanks, Sam. And thank you again, Darell. I love you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us tonight. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up, Darell? Anything in closing?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we are ending the meeting a little early tonight so that we can do a group conscience meeting and talk about what we're going to do going forward with this Thursday night workshop. And so please stick around if you'd like to participate in that. And Dawn, I didn't look, but you probably already posted the link to the Dropbox with all the speakers. So yeah, if you go into the chat, there'll be a link to the Dropbox where like this recording will be loaded up probably within a week or 10 days. And all of the recordings from this workshop since 2020, when Sam started it, those recordings are on here. So thank you all for being here. And we're going to end in the way that we always do, which is what we just go inside and just say the prayer of our choice quietly, and then we'll come back and thank our speaker.
Against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. Thank you so much, God. Thank you, Darell.
Hey,
Thanks again,
love you.
Darell.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Darell, it's a joy to meet you and hear you.
Thank you, Darell.
Thanks you all.
Thank you, Darell.
Night.
Thank you so much, Darell.
All right. Thank you.
Good night, all.
Hey,
Thank you, Darell.
Thank you, Darell.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks for reading, David.
Thank you, Darell.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Thank you so much, Darell. It's great to hear you.
everyone.
If you're interested in
this meeting continuing or having an opinion on that, we'd like for you to stick around as we chat about it.
All right, well, everybody here and good?
Yep.
Go for
Okay,
it, Sam.
Yeah, thanks,
So
Sam.
kind of what I thought, we'll just let these prayers continue over from the last meeting. We started this workshop, I think sometime in like April 2020 or May in 2020. And it was kind of intended to just be kind of a fun thing that we would do for a couple months. And it's turned into a 2.5-year long adventure. We've had a lot of fun with it. But a lot of people have returned back to their house from Zoom, it's changed and evolved. And, one of the things that Don and I were thinking is, here's the big question. Do Maggie's term, Maggie, your commitment into what, not 2 Thursdays from now?
Yeah. I've just been co-chairing, and then I'm chairing the next, this week, and then 2 more weeks. And then I don't think we have anything planned after that.
So we have the Thanksgiving, the 24th, and then we have December 1st. And kind of the big question is, do we schedule like either December 1st or the 24th, a big bang up lineup of people that we've all had fun listening to, and wave goodbye to the workshop, have a grand finale? Or would anybody like to keep it, and Don and I will pass the torch, and that all you basically have to do is we'll give you the codes to the stuff, and you can make the flyers and get the speakers, and we're happy to help in any way. But that's kind of the question. So with that, I'll let Maggie, I think you're facilitating the meeting, so I'll shut up now and just let people raise their hands and say whatever they want to say.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Veronica, you go ahead. Yeah, if you want to just raise your hand. And then
Yeah, am I understanding that you and Dawn just don't want to do it anymore, but you're happy for someone else just to pick it up and run with it?
Yeah, kind of the question was, do we keep it going? It was a fun workshop, like it was meant to be just a workshop, but do we want to keep it going? And if we do, should we bring it back to the emotional sobriety thing? That's probably an easier thing, it seems like, for people to share on. And those are a couple things to consider, but we want to kind of get a group's opinion on what do people think. And if anybody wants to, we can maybe even talk about it again, give everybody some time to consider it and talk to other people, and maybe bring it up next Thursday, and maybe have like a vote if we want to keep it. And if anybody wants to bring it up, go ahead, Veronica. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. I'm just putting my hand up just so that when you finish. Personally, I'll be really disappointed if it's not available. I also am aware that I don't think I could be of terribly much value. I just don't have the breadth of knowing people, and never mind the mechanics of how it works and all the Dropbox stuff. That's technical stuff. Someone else can do that. But I will say, if this comes to a close, I will be really sad to see it go. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
thanks, Veronica.
Thank you.
I also want to say I have super black and white thinking. So it's like either we do it or we don't do it. One possibility is to just make a commitment to do whatever we're going to do, whether we go back to the emotional sobriety letter and use that as a basis, and maybe go to the first of the year and see how it goes with, Sam, it sounds like you and Dawn really need a break. And so if there was a group of us that wanted to try to work together as a team and just take it to the first of the year and see in a trial kind of period how that works.
Absolutely.
I'm totally willing to continue to help, whatever, whether that's co-chairing, chairing, getting speakers. I think it'd probably be less intimidating if there was like a small core of people that maybe could share that. Any other thoughts on it?
I think Irina had her hand up, and then John did.
Yeah, okay, Irina?
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say it'd be criminal to let this workshop go and that's not the word I want to use, but it has meant so much to me that to see it disappear and not have it on a Thursday night, I'm willing to do anything that would help to keep it going. I'm not in a position to get speakers because I don't really know a lot of people. And I've noticed attendance has dropped off since we went to the great reality from emotional sobriety. So I think maybe going back to emotional sobriety and would be something worth considering, but to drop the workshop, I don't understand why that would even be a consideration. So
Okay.
that's how I feel.
Thank you, Irina.
Thanks. John? Oh, then I'm sorry. Yeah, John, and then Tom has his hand up. Did you want to?
Yeah, I'm John, I'm alcoholic.
John.
So you haven't heard much from me until the last few weeks, but I've been in here quite consistently for the past 2 years, and my work schedule is such that a lot of times I have meetings with people in New Zealand and Japan. Due to the time change, a lot of those meetings hit on Thursday evenings. So I'm really grateful for the recordings because I've listened to every recording there is, and it's just been a wonderful, wonderful addition to my recovery. And I would certainly be willing to help in any way I can if the group conscience is to keep it going. And I can think of at least a few people right off the top of my head who I would love to have come on and share. So I'm not trying to push one way or the other. I certainly respect the group conscience, but I also
No.
understand that it takes a
No,
lot
honey.
of work to organize this. And I would be willing to pick up some of that work as well moving forward. And I'd probably really like to see us go back to the emotional sobriety letter, just because that's not something that you hear in a lot of other meetings, and it's just such a rich reading to start the meeting with. That I mean, I'm good either way, but anyway, that's enough out of me. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Tom, and then Chris.
Yeah, I'm kind of up in the air, but I think probably if we went back to the emotional sobriety letter, that it would open it up a lot more. I mean, I could talk for an hour and a half about my experiences with the power of God and what the great reality deep within me means, but I don't think most people can. I mean, what it seemed like is people run out of steam, talking on those 3 pages. And to me, they're the most important pages in the whole book. I mean, I'm really glad that you guys, decided to do that. But one of the, I think, most important, I've been on this, well, actually, I was on this back when it was a live meeting at Sam's house for men only, way back when. So I've been on this the whole time. And I think that one of the most powerful parts is that we have speakers from literally all over the world, and some really, really great speakers that have come onto this that we could access this way that we will never access in a live forum. I mean, no one can afford to, week after week after week, to get people from Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, et cetera, et cetera. And back when we were doing emotional sobriety workshop, it seemed like there were more Al-Anons participating also, which I really liked that. I thought that input was really good. And so for my part, I would help with selecting speakers, because I do know a lot of speakers from all over the world. And and might even get some Icelanders to wake up in the middle of the night and do it. But seriously, I think it could still be a vital thing that way, So I can't be here every single time like I used to be, but I'll try to support it personally. But that's just my thoughts anyway.
Thank you, Tom. Chris? And then Veronica?
Yeah, hi. My camera's off because I'm driving. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to express my incredible gratitude for this meeting. I had the privilege to chair it for a few months in the summer, and this meeting really literally saved my life in 2021. I was such on the edge, and a counselor told me, you have to get your ass in a meeting tonight, literally said that. And it was such a God thing how I found this meeting on Zoom in the pandemic. And I don't know any of you, I've never heard of FOTS or anything. And just 2 weeks ago, I met Tom and Sam for the first time in person in Nashville. And, I wanted to say how much this meeting has really opened up my life and jump-started my recovery and my steps. And, obviously whatever is decided by the group I trust is the right thing. But I too have seen, not just for myself, but just for a lot of folks, a world that otherwise wouldn't be possible of recovery for so many people. So if there's any way that my help or support could be helpful for keeping it going for more people, I'd be happy to, of course, step up in any way. So I just want to say thanks again to Sam and Dawn and everyone, and I'm here to keep it moving.
Thank you so much, Chris. Veronica, did you have something else you wanted to share?
Yes, of course I do, Maggie. I've got something else to say. And so is my dog. Listen, I don't know. I'm not really good at packaging words unless I've had time to prepare and, prepare my delivery. But here's what I think about this right from the get-go. And it has really saved my ass. It really has also. I would be willing to talk to anyone that, how to keep this meeting going. Here's just my opinion and a couple of my observations. One of the things that, apart from the incredibly strong and experienced speakers that we've had week after week, never mind. I was thinking about myself when I was asked to speak, and I was like, oh, dear mother of God. But anyway, it's really important, the anchors, another thing. And I understand that I don't know, I'm making this up. Maybe you're fatigued, maybe you're tired, maybe it's a pain in the ass to do this. Maybe it's really hard to find the speakers. Man, I'd go and do it. I just don't know who they are. But here's a couple of suggestions. There is 2.5 years of recordings. I don't remember a lot of the names. And I'm just bouncing things around, if there's some way to just buy you some relief and a bit of respite between now and, pray to God, not the death knell of this meeting, even if we go back to the great reality, is to have meetings that are reruns of some of the, the best hits of. I mean, there are things that I'm a techno idiot. I don't know how to go back and listen to those things. So I'd be very happy. The other thing is that the people that spoke 1.5 years ago, maybe they'll come back and do it again. That would be really nice. So anyway, I'm lobbying to keep it. I'm really happy to go back to back to emotional sobriety. I was also thinking, I didn't like change, and I was like, you're changing it? The format's changing? Yes, I know. But I think the great reality is great, but I don't know, emotional sobriety sounds pretty good. So anyway, there's a couple of my suggestions. Would love to help. Please keep in mind, I am a techno moron.
Thank you, Veronica. Dave H., and then Maria, and then Sue.
Hi, I'm Dave, alcoholic. Hello, everybody tonight. I just want to throw my 2 cents in, and grateful primarily for this meeting. I live in northern New York, where there's more cows than there are people, and AA meetings are very small, and we aren't exposed to very much. And I've only been sober a little over 6 years, so this meeting has been 30% of my sobriety, and has opened up so much that I'm so grateful for in the time. So I would certainly like to see it still going. And I enjoyed the emotional sobriety part of it very much. And I'd be willing to help out in some way that I could. I'm not sure what I could do, but I'd be in the background. The recordings have been great. I've gone back and listened to them from time to time when I haven't been able to make them. Going to FOTS and running into all you people, it's wonderful. And it would be a sort of a slightly empty world without you, because I see some other meetings starting to drop off that they're kind of mainstay for me too. But this one's very important, has been. So thanks for letting me.
Thanks,
2
Dave.
cents.
Thank you. Maria?
Hi, my name's Maria and I'm an alcoholic. And I just want to thank everyone, Sam, Dawn, Tom, everyone that's participated on this meeting. I've loved this meeting. I haven't been able to participate since the format changed because my life just got a lot really busy. And Thursday night is my home group. I have to drive a long distance, and so I can't offer help. But it'd be sad to see this meeting go away. It's meant a lot to me. And I don't understand why, because I think the great reality in the big book really got me to some sort of emotional sobriety, but I think that emotional sobriety opens up the format for more folks. And I would just hate to see it go. And I know at some point my life will slow down, and I would love to be able to participate and be able to offer more help, but I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's meant a lot to me.
Thank you, Maria. So let's hear from Sue, and then we'll kind of see what we're going to do next, as far as like whether we'll meet again in a week or two to firm things up. But Sue?
Hi, I'm Sue, grateful member of Al-Anon. I'm in South Australia, and I really love these meetings. Today was particularly exciting. Emotional sobriety is a great title, and it's been particularly enjoyable for me. And I'm thinking that there are always new people coming in to AA and Al-Anon who are going to benefit from emotional sobriety. And as our sponsees come through, this is a great thing to be able to refer them to. So that's how I'm seeing it, something for people to move on to and to enjoy as they get through their step 9 and into the rest. I think it's very valuable, and we have plenty of people who could be speakers from down under. I hope it goes on. Thank you again.
Thanks so much, Sue.
Well, thank you guys for that real heartwarming. You want me to?
Yeah, you go. Yeah, you go ahead, Sam.
So thanks everybody for that really heartwarming. All of you guys have meant so much to us. We've had a blast with it. I think we were just kind of trying to take the temperature to see if it was still supposed to go on. Is there anybody here who, Tom, I'm sorry, you have something you want to share?
It's Juanita, but she wasn't on this, so I raised a hand.
Okay.
For her.
Hey, sorry, I've been really sick this last week, and but I wanted to make this group conscience, and I'm like a couple of people who mentioned that when the topic changed, I was like, what? I love the great reality. There's nothing else, but it's like emotional sobriety, I think, just affords people to offer more of an experience of their growth in using the steps and the difficulties that they've had, the ups and the downs in their recovery and throughout the years. And so I think it affords a better, how do I want to say this? It affords the people who show up the ability to, what's that word? To relate, to find themselves in the experiences that people share. Because everybody's experience of the great reality is different, and it's internal. You know, it's hard to speak from something about something that is such an internal process. And I was just thinking, and you mentioned it, Sam, that why not have a couple of weeks of like bringing some of the people who shared in the past and putting like 3 of them together for 3 or 4 of them together for a day, you know, and have a little panel on them, and a couple of weeks of that, and just, you know, see how it goes, maybe recharge people's batteries or something like that. And I don't know, just a thought. But I love it. Thanks. It's been a great meeting.
I think the first probably order of business. Thank you so much, Juanita, and thanks everybody who's contributed to it. I mean, the meeting's going to change scale. It's going to scale back and forth, you know, as far as attendance. And I mean, it's never really been about that, you know. I mean, if it goes from 150 people to 40, if it's helping 40 and it's self-supporting, you know, then I think it's all good. You know, I think it's doing God's work. So is there anybody here, and don't feel like a bad guy, who thinks we should just, you know, that it's run its course and we should scrap it? Did you hear that? Okay, so it sounds like we'll keep it. And is there anybody, and the other thing is the great reality versus I don't think you're being disloyal to the great reality. It's about what's easier to talk about. And we tried that as a kind of quick deviation, you know, like the great reality is all over the emotional sobriety letter and workshop. It's just about what's an easier thing for a lot of people to talk about. Is there anybody who would be object to us turning it back over to the emotional sobriety? Okay, so that passed. And then the third thing is, I think we should go ahead, Dawn.
I have something. The only thing that I'm concerned about, because I'm a stickler for schedules and times and codes and all this type of stuff, is so presumably we're going to stay in this flow. So Maggie is good through the 17th, and then the holidays are going to be upon us. So I think that I think I could feel this thing, nobody being available to chair through the holidays. So I'm just wondering, and anybody can even reach out to me directly if they're interested. We don't have to handle it tonight, but that's something that needs to happen in a relatively prompt way.
So I think next week is the 10th, and I think that we just have a real we have one more business meeting like this, and we just say, hey, whoever, we have a few positions. The positions are, you know, meeting facilitator and greeter, and then speaker. We can have Tom be like, if nominate somebody for speaker selector, and then somebody to chair. Real simple, right? And we can just vote those people in, and we can figure it out from there, you know. That's what I think.
I'll let you know right now, I'm here over the holidays. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, I mean, you know, Veronica can chair one, and we could have, I mean, we've got all kind of great speakers.
Veronica has to read.
Yeah.
If we go back to emotional
contribution.
sobriety, Veronica's going to have
the
to
only
read.
thing I wanted to say.
Yeah. So well, I think that adjourns it. Thank you, everybody. And we'll just visit next week and just pick out a few of those service positions. We don't need to make anything crazy, but just, you know, I think probably a chair, a speaker selector, and a somebody who's a greeter and facilitates opening the meeting or whatever. So
that sounds great. One last thing. So Sam, I did get speakers. Scott S. from Philadelphia is next week.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
one? What do you want to use as the format? Do you want to switch it next week to the emotional sobriety? Okay.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and yank the rug on the great reality. It's not the great it's not the great reality. Let's yank the rug on the pages and we agnostics.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that workshop, you know, we did that workshop and it was fun for a time. But we're just going to have to go back to where we, you know, I think we're ready to go back to emotional sobriety. And we're just gonna have to tell these guys if they've been rehearsing, they're gonna have to switch their shit up.
All right, I'll let Scott know. I'm sure he doesn't care. And then Erica.
That'll be
C,
fine.
Yeah, Erica C that used to be here in
That'll be
Colorado
fine.
is the week after. So I'll let her know
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And hey, just
Awesome.
tell them, hey, here's the best part. If we read emotional sobriety and you end up where you want to read The Great Reality, you have an hour to an hour and a half. Do whatever you want.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you,
you
Sam.
all.
Thank you, Dawn. Thanks,
God
everybody.
bless. Thank you guys for your heartwarming feedback, and we
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
you. Thank you guys.
See you
Thanks,
next
Thanks,
week.
everybody.
everyone.
Appreciate it
Thanks,
very much.
everybody.
Great job, Maggie.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you, Tom.
Oh, have we been recording this whole time? We're gonna have to cut
We
that
have
out.
been.
Yeah, we can cut it
Oh,
off. I
yeah,
really
we
just
did.
wanted to say
Perfect.
that I'm happy that we have Sam saying that he wants